Hey everyone, this is Liz Stevens, the law firm director at Clark.Law, and today we are talking about static versus dynamic overhead. Last week, we talked about how to find the profit in your business, how to discover that profit, and the reality is that the profit is already there. All you have to do is uncover it. One way to do that is by, quite honestly, eliminating the waste that you've got going on in your business. Especially as you decide to take a percentage of revenues that the business is now going to deliver to you, and you take that as your profit first, you've made the decision that the business is now going to struggle so you don't have to. So let's make sure that the business not only struggles, but actively survives and thrives, especially as we look to increase that percentage of revenues that we're allocating to profit and decrease the operation expenses as a percentage of revenue. So how do we do that? There are one of two ways. The first is to make sure that you do your best to raise revenues. As you raise revenues, the percent of revenues that you've allocated to profit automatically increase. So it's better for the business if you take 65% of $500,000 instead of 70% of $300,000. Raise revenues and you will have the cash you need in order for your business to survive. Second is to eliminate waste. As your business changes and evolves and grows, the amount of waste it produces also changes and grows. And so whether you've read the book Profit First that this series is based off of, or you've seen through your own experience as a business owner, Parkinsons Law exists. And that law states that any resources the business has access to, whether intentionally or unintentionally, if the business can access those resources, it's going to consume those resources. And so we need to make sure that we limit those resources by cutting waste so that the business can live within its means. So we don't cut dynamic overhead. There are two kinds of overhead, dynamic and static. We don't cut dynamic overhead. We don't cut the cost of goods sold. We don't cut the steel that goes into making cars. We don't cut the salespeople. We don't cut the people who are providing the services that we're servicing. We don't cut dynamic overhead. Instead, we cut static overhead. Well, what is static overhead? Well, dynamic overhead is anything that if we add more, the business makes more money. If we add more product makers, we make more products, we make more money. If we add more salespeople, they sell more of those products and we make more money. Static overhead is the opposite. If we add more, we don't necessarily make more money. So if we've got enough chairs and we buy more chairs for the business, we're not necessarily going to make any more money. If we have enough desks and electricity and we buy more, we're not going to make more money unless the business needs more of those items. Take the example of janitorial staff. If you add more janitorial staff, are you going to make more money? No, probably not. And so these areas where if you add more to the business, you don't see an increase in the money you're making, this is where to start when you're looking at how to cut waste. Now, I'm not saying at all that you need to go and cut all of your static overhead. Some static overhead is not right for cutting. And so don't do that. But what I'm saying is that this is the place to start. And chances are that you might not have got it right the first time in terms of how much static overhead you have for right now in your business for what's happening and going on. And so always look to static overhead first. And never cut dynamic overhead, because if you cut dynamic overhead, you're actively losing money, and then you have to cut more dynamic overhead and you're just circling a drain and nobody wants to be there. So static overhead is where we look to find the fat, where we look to find the waste, and where we look to find our profits. So thank you for listening into this segment. Please continue to follow us and listen into each piece we have for the next 12 weeks. We always love questions, so if you have any, please reach out to info@clark.law. That's info@clark.law, LAW, or feel free to give us a call at 704-837-0055. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your night.